I want to take you inside an e-commerce brand right here, which we scaled to 149,949 pounds per month in revenue, which is roughly $192,749 per month. And in this video, I want to show you exactly how we did it with Google Ads, our strategies we implemented, the website itself, the products itself, and so much more. Now, this is the same brand which just about 4 months ago was barely scraping by with 40,000 pounds per month in revenue. I mean, if we go back to April of 2024 of this year, we can see that it had done roughly 92,000 pounds, but just the month before in March, it was doing roughly 40,000 pounds per month in revenue. So what did we do that caused this brand to jump up almost 3 times in revenue and get to this level? Now, there's a few things which we did right from the start. We have been working with this brand since the beginning of April, but before we get into any of that, let's take a step back and understand this brand from the ground up. Now, going over the website itself, this is actually a furniture brand based in the UK. It's called Opa Living, and very unique brand, very straightforward. The design itself on the website is custom built, fully based on the data that we have for the audience that has interacted with this brand. So that's one very unique thing regarding this brand, that they actually use the data and how users were interacting by using tools that let them actually understand what the audience was doing on the website, whether they were checking out, where they were dropping off, etc. But as you can see right here on the product page itself, it's a very custom built theme to it, a very custom built approach. Right on the top, everything is in a beautiful yellow color, which talks about some summer sale ending. They have timers going on, which of course helps add that extra scarcity, helps add that extra FOMO. And it doesn't matter if you sell high ticket products like these furniture, or if you sell mid ticket or low ticket items, FOMO and adding things like timers definitely helps a lot. But if we scroll down, we can see they have just very simple, straightforward product images. There's a little bit of more scarcity added here with this timer at the bottom with how much of these products are left in stock, followed by a trust badge. And then if we scroll down, it becomes like a little bit of a drop shipping store in terms of how this feel is. But keep in mind, this is not a drop shipping store, this is a real brand. As we scroll down now, we can see they have very simple layout description followed by reviews and just other products that they recommend here. So very straightforward and very simple approach. There's really nothing that different with this brand that would make this do any different than maybe your brand or maybe another furniture brand out there. But one interesting thing, if you notice right here, that this brand did well is they incorporated some beautiful imagery within their product pages, within their brand as a whole, to ensure that whoever looks at this product thinks of it in a very high quality manner. So what they did essentially, they did do some photography. They essentially have people who are looking very happy sitting on their product. They have other types of images where people who are looking in a very laid back manner, in a very cool manner, just enjoying themselves on these sofas that they sell. And these things help add that extra authority that this brand needs to sell a product that's essentially 2,000 to 5,000 pounds in total. But that little extra thing really did help this brand from the beginning, from what I've been seeing with the ad side of things. Now, going on over to their Google Ads account right now, so far we can see within the last 30 days alone, according to Google, this brand has spent roughly 13,000 pounds and generated back roughly 61,000 pounds in total. Now, this number is a little bit off. About 60 to 70% of the sales do come from Google Ads, but there's a little bit of an attribution period right here, as you can see when I hover over this, which says that it takes about 15 days for all of the data to be properly attributed to the given campaigns and to the given ad strategies. So right now, it's only at about 82% accuracy. It's different for every brand, but this brand has a little bit of a higher attribution period right here, which means the 61,000 pound will within the next 15 days change to about 70, 80, maybe even 100,000 pounds. But in general, we have been running at a 5x ROAS for this brand since we began. And the interesting thing is, about 90 days ago, if we compare it to when we started with this ad account and we compare it to the previous period where this ad account was running with Google Ads, we can see there has been a significant increase in revenue in total, roughly a 67% increase. Now, you might look at the ROAS and see that it has dropped drastically as well. Well, the reality is this brand only needs a 5x ROAS to be extremely profitable. And before that, although the ROAS was very, very high, 8x, 10x ROAS, the revenue was very, very small. So in reality, the connection between the revenue and ROAS was just not there at all. And as a result, the brand was struggling struggling to scale during that time. But that's essentially when we came in and when we started to really begin working on this brand, to really begin scaling this brand. Now, if we look at the last 30 days, the campaigns which we have recently been running, it's the same approach we did when we first began with this store. What we noticed initially when we began with this brand was there was one major kind of campaign running during this time, which was just a performance max campaign with all of the products in there. I mean, this is an approach which so many different brands still do to this day, where they just run maybe one major shopping campaign. It could be a standard shopping campaign, or they run one major performance max campaign and they just wish and pray that that does the trick, that gets them results. And as we see right here, during that time, they had this one specific campaign running, which was a standard shopping campaign, which meant they were completely guessing their bids. They had no idea what the real bid should be. And as a result, after spending £1,000, they only got in one major sale, which led to a 1.92x ROAS, and the average order value was exactly £2,000, and that's because the conversion tracking was also messed up during that time. So one thing I always say, doesn't matter if it's furniture brand or any other brand, you don't want to work against the Google Ads algorithm. This means right now there's a big push towards performance max campaigns. There's a big push towards these smart bidding based campaigns. There's no reason for you to go against Google's algorithm and try to incorporate and make these standard shopping or manual bidding campaigns work, because that's technically like working against the grain, working against Google's recommendations, and it really doesn't make much of a difference, and it doesn't really provide the results that you are looking for. So that's exactly what we noticed during that time as well, which is why we essentially started running performance max campaigns right from the get-go for this brand. And if we take a closer look at things maybe in the middle of June, we can see exactly how things had started to run with these campaigns, because that's when things really started to take off for this brand. As we see right here, there was one standard shopping campaign still running during this time, which we had started. This is the catch-all campaign, which I truly believe every brand should have. It just runs at a very high target ROAS or a very low bid. But essentially, that's what the standard shopping campaign was doing. And then the second and third campaigns right here, these were the major performance max campaigns we had started during that time. And surprisingly, the second campaign, which was targeting only one major collection, really started to take off. Now, what most brands do is they're trying to segregate out their products within these performance max campaigns based on pricing, based on margins, or just trying to do whatever they can to test their products properly. What they fail to realize is that they already have a few set of products or maybe a collection that has proven itself, that has already gotten them decent results. They failed to fully focus on that, and that's exactly what we did right here. We knew that this brand needed results fast, otherwise things were just going to go down further, and this brand would end up shutting down because it was closed and on the verge of bankruptcy essentially. But what we did here is we started this performance max campaign only focusing on the products which had shown results in the past 24 months, in the past 48 months. And those were the only products that we ran here alongside testing this other standard shopping campaign along with this other performance max based campaign going after a certain collection. But that was essentially it. That was the kind of approach we started off with along with the branded search campaign. But essentially, after establishing this kind of approach, after establishing this kind of strategy, we kind of turned things inwards and we started focusing on the back end, because we knew if you don't have a proper foundation, if you don't have a proper product feed, things are just not going to work properly. And that's what was happening for this brand right here, because although they had certain campaigns going which were starting to generate some results, a lot of their products actually had a very minute issues, very small issues within the merchant center, which was causing them to get disapproved. For instance, their product titles were just off the par. They were not properly searched and optimized. There was no perceived value to them. And as a result, Google was establishing these products as something completely different than what they were selling. What we had to do is we had to take a step back and focus on something I call the ad to customer match ratio. Now, this ad to customer match ratio, essentially what this ratio is basically making sure that the ad itself, the product itself, what you add in there, matches what the customer wants to see. And this establishes a ratio essentially which you cannot see within the back end within Google Ads. But in addition to that, what we wanted to focus on is basically the wants versus the needs. Now, when somebody comes in to buy a sofa, they don't really need the sofa. They just want it. Maybe they want it because it fits their home space correctly, or maybe they want it because it makes their home space look a bit better, a bit fancier, etc. Whatever the case is, we needed to differentiate between the wants versus needs, and we needed to establish the product titles, the product descriptions in a way where it catered to these wants, meaning it added perceived value in the user's eyes. And what this meant was making sure our product titles had proper keywords like premium, luxurious, heavy duty, or whatever other things that could be added to make these products seem a bit more fancier, a bit higher in terms of perceived value. And we also wanted to ensure that the descriptions were captivating enough where not only did they have the proper search engine optimized keywords, but they also had the necessary information related to the product itself, like how it would make them feel, how it would enlighten their home space, etc., to make them want to purchase. But from there, essentially, once that high perceived value was established, we really only began focusing on the campaign side of things only. And by this time, maybe late June, early July is when things really started to kick off for this brand. I mean, if we go just to the first 2 weeks of July, we can see that during this time, essentially this brand was starting to scale. It was already spending about 6,000-7,000 pounds every 2 weeks, and it was getting a 5.04x ROAS, which is completely different than what it had already been achieving previously. And this let us know that now this testing strategy was working. The basically focusing on one major collection was doing its trick. Now we could incorporate more strategies to further test other things. So that's when the second campaign for another collection came into play around 18th of June. And we also started running a few search-based campaigns because the results were now there. If you see right here, these three are search-based campaigns. One of them is targeting the product type. One of them is targeting the product style. And then finally, the last campaign right here, which is doing the best, it's targeting the collection itself as a whole. So we incorporated 3 separate search campaigns to test a different strategy for each. And what we ended up figuring out is that this going after the collection works the best. As you can see right here, we currently have a ROAS of a 33x, and that's based on cold traffic. Absolutely insane, but that's what happens when you test search campaigns properly. So one thing I understood from this search campaign strategy here is you don't want to just launch one search campaign and then test a bunch of different things within that search campaign alone. Instead, you want to maybe try different things with the search campaign as a whole, different approaches, where one approach is going after collection, one could be a dynamic search campaign, then one could be going after maybe a specific product type that you sell, and then choose the winning approach from there. So at this point, now that we know what's the winning approach, we will most likely be shutting out the losing approaches, and this will further help add to the profitability as we begin the scaling phase, which essentially doesn't matter if it's a high ticket brand, low ticket, mid ticket. Scaling involves 2 different approaches. Number 1, vertical scaling, and number 2, horizontal scaling. In this situation, we are going to be incorporating a bit more vertical scaling because we've already found the campaigns that actually are working the best, getting us profitable results. Now it's about increasing the budgets every 7 to 14 days by 20 to 25% as the results come in, and then just basically optimizing the product feed in the back end further based on the insight section. Now, insights, something so many e-commerce brands completely miss out on. You have to be looking into this. Your marketing team should be looking into this. I know we do for a lot of the brands we handle under my agency, Your Marketing, which, by the way, if you run a brand doing $1 million a year, you need extra help scaling your brand to the next level, go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and schedule a free call with me to see essentially how we can work together and make that happen. But insight section is a beautiful section where you get to know exactly what kind of keywords are working, and from here you're going to start incorporating them into your strategies to further grow the brand, further make it profitable. But essentially, that's one way to scale. Second way to scale is horizontal scaling. Horizontal scaling is something we have already started implementing here, which is expanding by campaign type. More campaign types, YouTube, demand gen, display, etc., along with adding more search campaigns and shopping as needed. That's basically horizontal scaling. I do recommend that you scale with one strategy at a time first, whether it be vertical or horizontal. But that's essentially what we are doing here. Nothing too crazy, and at this point, it's all about the scaling phase. Again, if you run a brand doing $1 million a year, you need extra help scaling your brand to the next level. Go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and schedule a free call with me to see essentially how we can work together and make that happen. But check out this video right here on the top 5 new performance max campaign strategies we have been using to scale brands like these to the next level.